And today we will be discussing practical legal solutions for business.
Like me, didn't have the opportunity to go into the big firms and work with big companies. And as an example, I think I was probably the last in my batch to get a training contract. You can think of it as the different kinds of relationships. Right? So in the business model canvas, you can see that it asks you about various categories of relationships, amongst other things. It's very common. I know this happens to everybody. When you install a program, they'll ask you to read terms and conditions, you just scroll to the bottom,
I agree.
accept. Right? And then you don't know what's actually inside.
Yes.
But if you take the time to read inside, 90, 95, maybe even 99% of these kind of software agreements just say that we give permission to use the software and you don't own anything of it. Mostly with Chinese clients, I think it is the turnaround and the emphasis on physical presence. I can tell you there are some local clients that I've never ever met in person. Maybe I see on Zoom.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Heart to Heart Dialogue. Again, I'm your host, Candy Yap. Today we have a very special guest, Boon Gan, a seasoned lawyer, called to the Singapore bar since 2015. And today we will be discussing practical legal solutions for business. Welcome, Boon Gan.
Thanks, Candy.
And let me do some introduction, about our guest today. Boon Gan has been called to the Singapore bar since 2015, as mentioned, and he has come to believe that businesses should be given economic and rational solutions, such as negotiating contracts and mediating disputes, rather than being engaged in litigations for years. And his experience in shareholder, partnership, and various collaboration disputes help him point the way to amicable and fuss-free solutions for his clients. And Boon Gan has also helped various B2B service providers navigate difficult customer relationships and steer them back on the path of profitability. Wow. Okay, Boon Gan, could you share a little bit about your journey in law and what inspired you to focus on providing practical solutions for businesses?
So I came into the industry, I think, at a point where there were a lot of new lawyers coming in. So a lot of people in my batchmates didn't have the opportunity to go into the big firms and work with big companies. And as an example, I think I was probably the last in my batch to get a training contract. The training contract is a 6-month training period that you had to go through back then in order to get qualified. So if you couldn't get a training contract, you couldn't practice.
So it's like before being called to the bar or after being called to the bar?
So I was one of the last few. I only got my training contract in the middle of the bar course. Whereas everybody already got theirs in their 3rd year, in their 4th year at NUS, and I was one of the last few. As far as I know, I was probably the last one. So I found my way into my current firm. And what we did a lot back then was a lot of litigation matters for small local companies. And we realized that a lot of times when the client comes to us and say, this guy never pay me. And then we'll start asking all the usual questions. So what is the agreement that you signed with him? What are some of the invoices that you don't pay? And as a fresh lawyer, I realized that a lot of these problems don't fit into our usual textbook scenarios. Because then the client will come to us and give us WhatsApp chat messages.
Yes.
Handwritten notes. Sometimes even audio recordings. So then we realized that a lot of these problems arise because they didn't think about doing the contracts before they started working with these people.
So means like they thought that with the recording, with the written notes and whatsoever WhatsApp screenshot can be an evidence.
Yeah, so that is possible. But of course, that's in theory possible. The practical difficulty is when you give all these things, bits and pieces to the judge. And it's like, instead of giving a shape to a judge, you can only give the judge a few dots and you ask the judge, please draw the lines and connect the dots. And of course, our job is to try and connect the dots. But if I give you, let's say, 5 dots like this, some people will say it's a pentagon. Some people will say it's a circle.
Oh, yes.
Right. So there are many different possible interpretations, and you cannot expect the judge to have the same interpretation as you.
Yes. So with a properly drafted agreement, the judge would have the big picture.
Yeah. So the possibility of a different interpretation is much smaller. Because if we all, at least between lawyers, we all use the same kind of language.
Correct.
And we take reference from past cases. So we know that when judges see certain words, they will say, okay, then we know that this is the kind of relationship you want.
I see. And also when you mention small business owner, right? Define the small business owner.
Okay, so in Singapore, we have this definition of a SME,
Yes.
which is, I think, under 100 million revenue and 300 employees, which is a very big range. Because where we're sitting right now, if you go through the whole building, I think most of the bosses here, they don't even have 10% of that kind of number. So it is a very big range and it crosses all kinds of industries. In our mind, when we think about SME, a lot of people think, oh, if I come to an industrial estate,
Yes.
the boss is an auntie or uncle, right, who has been in business for many years, waiting to pass on to their children.
Yes.
But it also can include many other profiles.
Okay.
Even some of our local companies, which you may think of as a big company, they can still fit under this category.
So you think of some of the local company that you can think of right now which fit under this.
Okay, I don't have the numbers because it is a numerical definition.
Okay.
But if you look at okay, I can't really say for now, but it is a very big range, and for us, I suspect my firm, we deal a lot with companies in the lower end of the range. We deal a lot with companies whose revenue is maybe a few million, right? Sometimes not even a million.
Yeah.
There's a very huge range. And within this big SME category, within this spectrum, you can see many different kinds of behavior. And what we saw was that a lot of our locally educated, traditional mindset bosses, they tend to suffer these problems. Because in Chinese culture, we have this idea that, I know you as a person, I know your character, I can trust you, and therefore we can proceed on that basis.
Yes.
Right.
More like 情感动物.
Yes. 关系啦.
Yeah, 关系, relationship, emotional
情感,
base.
对. Right. 信任, 互相信任.
Correct.
But what we also see is that when you have a personal relationship and you have money and you mix together, right, it's like oil and water. It doesn't always mix well. And then when you try to separate them, that's where the difficult part comes. Right.
Okay. So what actually inspired you to do what you are doing right now?
So for me, I think when I was younger, I got frustrated very easily. And my junior colleagues also got frustrated. They say, why our customers keep coming to us and giving us these kind of problems? And I were to tell them, of course, as a senior, that when people have problems, that's when they come to see us.
Yes.
If they have no problems, they don't come to see us.
Correct.
But then we thought to ourselves, is there a better approach? Instead of saying we wait until there's a fire, then we come with the bucket, right?
Is there any better prevention?
Yeah. Is it better to do prevention? Because then I think they are more willing to pay for it. They see the benefit. And we look like we're doing something constructive. It makes you feel like you are making something and not breaking something.
Yes. Right? It's a little bit same as financial consulting. Like we consult client before something happens, so that sort of like a prevention.
Correct.
Instead of things happen.
If something has happened and by the time you go to the claims, it's a very, very difficult process.
It's hard. Correct. I see. That was smart. Okay. And because today here I'm trying to link, because in this financial industry, right, there are tons of financial consultants. They are trying to penetrate into this SME business owner market. Okay, so coming from a legal perspective, right, what are the key principles that these financial consultants should know? Okay,
so a lot of people come to us and they say that you're the lawyers, please tell us about the law and what we can do with the law. But for us, it's a different thing. It's the reverse. It's not that it's like a horse and a cart. The law is the horse, but you must tell where the horse to go.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
You should not let the horse lead you. You are the one telling the horse where to go. So for us, we always ask our clients, right, what is your business model? What are the kinds of business relationships you need to make your business succeed? Right? And therefore, where are your risk areas, and where these are the issues that we can address.
Is this a business model canvas that you mentioned before?
Yes, and I think for most financial consultants I meet, I always try to encourage them, get to know the customer's business, because from their commercial perspective, then you can see where are the areas that they are lacking and they need your advice, right? Rather than trying to pitch a product to them.
Just like sell them without knowing them.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, not knowing them as a person, knowing the business. Right, but of course, sometimes we know that in a small business context, the person and the business is difficult and separate.
Yes.
That happens sometimes. And from our experience, we use the business model canvas, which is open source. You can go and find it on Wikipedia.
Later we will talk about it a little bit. Yeah, I've prepared some of the template. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So I think that is an easy way, or at least it's a clearer way, for an outsider to ask the business owner, right? How is your business structured? And we use the word structure. When it comes from a lawyer, people say, "Oh, structure, or is it a private limited? Is it a partnership? Is it a sole proprietorship?" For us, that is not the main point.
Okay.
Right? When we say structure, we talk about, you can think of it as the different kinds of relationships. Right? So in the business model canvas, you can see that it asks you about various categories of relationships, amongst other things. Right?
Okay, before we go, because later on we will talk about the business model canvas, and then to talk about, to come back to the main point, right? So so client came to you, expect that you give them just directly the consultation, but actually what lawyers do, you will still first find out about their business model first.
Yeah, we need that as the background so that we can decide what is the suitable solution.
So actually, as a financial consultant who wish to penetrate into SME business owner market, they should actually bare minimally know this structure beforehand?
Yes, I think they should know the business model first. And for me, the business model canvas is just a convenient way of finding out, because I mean, I've tried many times. You ask them, "Oh, okay, what are you selling? Who are your customers? Who are your suppliers? What is your target profile?" And instead of having to interview them this way, we found out that the efficient approach is to say, "Here is the business model canvas. Can you fill it up? And then we can discuss what you have filled up."
Maybe, Jem, could you help me to put up the one that blank one, without the wording? Yes, this one. Maybe Boon Gan, can you explain? Can you see do you manage to see it? Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. So.
So you can see that there are like 9 areas here, and this requires the business owner to think a bit more deeply about the different aspects of his business.
Okay.
Because what we also see is that a lot of entrepreneurs, they have a very clear direction in one of these aspects. They will probably say, "Okay, I'm going to sell X to Y target market."
Okay.
Which for us, that is only maybe your segments 1, 3, 4.
Could you do you mind if you share a case study to fit into this business model canvas?
So I had a client who said, "I've got somebody who's interested to partner with me.
Okay.
They want to collaborate." And for us, these kind of words are the danger words, because it means a lot of different things to different people.
Collaboration is dangerous.
It's a undefined word, and everybody has a different idea about it.
Okay, let's talk about it later on, about collaboration. Okay.
So for them, they say, "Okay, this is the business model they told us. They are going to set up a factory in another country, and they will import these goods to sell here."
Okay.
Right. So for me, I said, "Okay, so I know what is your channel, right? Because you are saying you're selling here."
Selling here, yes.
Number and 3, maybe I know what is your customer segment, which is number 1. Because you say you want to sell to Singapore market.
Correct.
Right. But what kind of customer relationship are you having?
When we talk about customer relationship,
that means from the business owner's point of view, how do I deal with my customers? And you can see it's number 4, because the customer segments actually is the first one, because you have to define your customer first.
Okay.
Because some people may say that, okay, so for example, a person who wants to do, for example, let's say a medical concierge.
Yes,
A lot of people
concierge.
think when they see a concierge, they think of the customers as the people who walk in waiting to see a doctor.
Yes.
But from the concierge point of view, these people are not their customers because these people are not paying them to deliver a service. For the concierge, their
Doctors that
customers are
pay.
the doctors
Yes, correct.
because the doctors are the ones who need the concierge to help them
Sort of market
market,
their business.
set up the premises, right, do their admin for them.
Okay.
So that's why the customer segment has to be defined properly, because if you don't pick the right customer segment, then everything falls off the rails.
Okay, so let's talk about medical concierge. So let's say the customer segment, it would be
doctors. And even then, when we say doctors, we can ask them to narrow it down a bit more, because there are so many kinds of doctors.
Okay.
Right? There are GPs, there are specialists, there are doctors in different geographical locations, there are doctors with different even personalities that attract different kinds of patients.
Then the value propositions would be like what kind of value services I can provide.
So this is also a difficult part actually, because you have to be able to say what the customer benefits.
Okay.
It's from the customer point of view. It requires you to step into the customer's shoes and say what is the benefit.
I see.
And on the more meta value for advisors like us, it's also important for us to think about what is the customer's benefit. Because a lot of us think, okay, this is what I do well. And therefore the customer benefits that way. But sometimes the customer's benefit comes in a very unexpected way.
Yes, true. I agree.
You may think that because I know certain products very well, right, then therefore my value to the customer is I can find them this kind of products.
Yeah.
But maybe the customer comes to you because you can connect well with them.
Yeah.
That you can help them connect to other people that they need services from.
Okay. So other than the number one and number two you mentioned like it's quite difficult, right? Which area?
I think one part that always causes a big jam is the number 8, the key partners.
Okay, so what about the key partners here?
So let's say in the context of a medical concierge, when you talk about your key partners, right, who do I need to make this work? So you think about it, if I'm, let's say, operating a telemedicine concierge, right?
Okay.
I need somebody to, for example, develop my app and maintain my app.
Okay.
Because if I, for example, just get a freelancer to do the app once off and something happens, right, will this guy be able to maintain my app?
So key partners doesn't necessarily mean that, oh, my business partner in the company,
not necessarily. It is not only internal. There's also external partners.
I see.
Right. And I think because there are a lot of digital businesses nowadays, and what some of them don't realize is that they rely on certain kinds of software. And for us, we have to be careful about software, because a lot of people think last time I pay money, I buy the CD-ROM, I own the software.
Yes.
But you're just getting permission to use the software, right? It's very common. I know this happens to everybody. When you install a program, they'll ask you to read terms and conditions. You just scroll to the bottom.
I agree.
Accept, right? And then you don't know what's actually inside.
Yes.
But if you take the time to read inside, 90, 95, maybe even 99% of these kind of software agreements just say that we give permission to use the software and you don't own anything of it. You don't own any part of it. Sometimes you may not even own the work product.
Wow.
And just to go on an off tangent, if you like to use OpenAI and these kind of AI generators, right, you may not even own the end product.
Wow.
Right.
Oh my God.
And sometimes there are some companies who may even tell you, like Adobe, that they own the data that you input into a program.
Wow, this is mind-blowing.
Recently there's a controversy when they amended the terms and conditions. And I suppose only some people discovered it, because obviously not everybody reads everything.
So better read it. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't read all of these software updates too.
That's why we need a lawyer friends, you know.
No, I think this is a pet peeve of mine. I think people just need the patience to read.
Yes.
Because not everything is designed to confuse you. There is a movement for these documents be written in plain English.
Okay.
For the benefit of consumers. People just need to read and then see what they don't understand. Yeah.
Okay. So the moral of the story is to read the terms and condition.
Yeah.
So come back to this business model canvas, right? I remember, Boon Gan, you shared with me earlier, the first time we met, you mentioned like you actually had this client, like after being through this business model canvas with you and something
Yes.
interesting
So
happened.
back to the one about the example where they say they're going to import the goods produced overseas.
Yes.
And then I asked them, who is the owner of these product designs?
Who is the owner of this product design?
Because I've seen a lot of some of these cases. Somebody designs the product, they send it to be produced OEM in, for example, China. And in some cases, the Chinese factory, they have production run-offs and they sell these to other suppliers. Right? And then you lose the exclusivity of design, which you depend on for your value proposition sometimes. Because you have a unique design, but it stops being unique if you don't control your OEM side properly. Right? And there was some confusion with the other party about whether or not this was even an original design. So then I said to them, if you are just white labeling something that I can find on Taobao, why would people come to you?
Okay. Wow.
And that was the last conversation I had with them, and it's been many months lah. So I suspect it is not going through because they realized that there is a serious weakness in this business model.
Don't you feel like you are sort of also doing a business consulting work already?
I don't like to use the word business consulting because again, it is one of those things which mean different things to different people. And you can come at it from many different angles. Right? For us lawyers, because especially we do disputes, we see where the risk areas are, and we can identify the risk areas. Maybe for accountants, they can see financial trends, and they can help their clients manage their cash flow, do projections, things like that. So it's a very different kind of advisory or consulting work. But for us, it is important that we understand the commercial basics first, and we find that there's no commercial basis, then whatever we do is of no value to a client. Right? For me, I don't see the value if I spend so much time and the client pays me so much money to do an agreement that nobody will sign.
I will also say that you have your standards and you have a high standards towards yourself in things that you do.
I think all lawyers have some kind of standards lah. It's just how high we go. Some of us go higher than the rest, but we all have some kind of standards.
And everyone should have the standards. Yeah, actually we should have. I mean, even as a financial consultant, I would say that financial consultants should raise our standard as well.
Yeah, so I guess the question is, what are the kinds of standards that you aspire to? Does everybody have the same idea of these kind of standards lah?
Yes.
And for us, because I suppose for consultants, sometimes they're afraid to talk about their thinking process because they feel that, if I share my thinking process, then other people can copy me or my clients can look for somebody else with a thinking process. Right? But for us, because we know that our value proposition is not really doing this kind of business consulting. For us, it's just a tool of understanding.
Yes.
So we're happy to rely on open source and tell people that, look, I got nothing to hide. This is what a lot of other people use. It works for them. Right? This is, I suppose, part of our onboarding process lah.
Yeah. Actually, you did inspire me one thing. You did inspire me about this business model canvas. Like, oh my God, I'm like, wow, okay, I could use this model to raise my standard as well, like to value add my business owner client, to ask them good questions and relevant questions.
Yeah, and I think it's an easy way for them to see because then it links, the different parts will link to one another. And it helps you keep the conversation going rather than ask them no questions and they feel like I'm going through an interview.
Yes.
And what is the outcome of this interview?
Yes. And I'm sure this will definitely benefit a lot of my financial consultants peers out there. Thank you, Boon Gan.
No problem.
Yeah, thank you, JM, for the photos. Okay. And also, Boon Gan, there's another thing that's unique about you is that your background, your bilingual background. Because I spoke to you, you're very good in English, both English and Chinese.
I think my Chinese is okay. But maybe what is different about me is that I don't fear speaking Chinese. I had a former colleague, they were sent to speak to a Chinese speaking client.
Okay.
I think about estate planning matters. And they were so concerned, even though we came from the same Chinese-speaking school,
Okay.
right? They were so concerned that they prepared a script beforehand, before seeing the client. And then after the client meeting, I asked, so how did it go? Then they said, all according to script. So I think that a lot of us, we have this fear because we don't want to look like we don't understand, or we don't want to look like we don't know. And you can see the one extreme, logical extreme, is that I prepare with a script. But over time, I think with enough practice, because I've also met other professionals like me, whom they say 10, 15 years ago, my Chinese was 真的很糟糕, like, 真的很混乱, that kind of thing. But over time, they can improve. And most of the time, the Chinese-speaking clients, they appreciate that you try.
Yes.
They appreciate that you try. Maybe your vocab is not there. Maybe you need to Google Translate on the spot. Fine.
Yeah.
But at least they appreciate that you try, and over time you improve. Then I think that's the key.
And it's always the practice makes perfect.
Yeah, you have to practice.
Yeah.
And for me, I think it's not that I always set out to be bilingual. It's not like I told myself, okay, 我必须精通双语 that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it was a bit of an accident, because in my firm, because my former boss I guess he came from a English Catholic background. So he knew that his Chinese was also limited.
Okay.
And sometimes he felt that, okay, just send Boon Gan, go and meet the client first.
Okay.
So there were quite a few times, Chinese speaking client, okay, Boon Gan, go and talk to the client first.
Okay, so you just went.
Yeah, I just went. I just I
Did
had
you
to
prepare the script beforehand?
I didn't do script, but because I volunteered at legal clinics before, and the previous volunteers, they had prepared a glossary of terms.
Okay.
So because of that, I had a resource I could leverage on, and I could just double check, okay, is the correct Chinese term what I think it is? Or is there some other term I can use? Because in different countries, they also have different vocab.
Yes.
So I learned this way, you talk to the clients, you go and check your other resources. And over time, you can learn to become comfortable. Of course, you may sometimes get stuck a bit, but I think it's a matter of taking your time to explain what you mean.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so long as the intention can be passed through to the client.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the main thing, right?
Yeah, it's communication. You don't have to use the exact same words that they use.
Okay.
And I think they can understand you most of the time.
And does this bilingual background, right, actually open up you to certain markets, like for example, China clients?
So the language helps, but what I've realized is that maybe for us, we always talk about Chinese market, China market, but China is a big place, and it's made of many small places with different individual characteristics, different kinds of demands. So as an example, I did a interview podcast with a corporate secretary who helps Chinese clients come to Singapore. And what he said was that depending on which Chinese city he goes to, he will use different credentials.
Oh.
So for example, let's say if he goes to Shanghai, then he will talk about his business experience.
Okay.
If he goes to Beijing, he will say that he will display his academic credentials.
Oh.
Because 各地方有各地方的喜好.
Yes.
Right? They value different things in the different local areas.
Wow.
So for me, that was a new level of understanding, because from my experience, I know that there is a cultural difference, right? For example, local clients, they understand that you work a 5-day week. They usually don't touch on weekends unless the house is on fire. Whereas Chinese clients, they think when they ask for something, they want it to come back very quickly.
Yes, it's the culture, like Taobao, 24/7.
Yeah. So that, besides the cultural understanding, then by talking to fellow professional service providers, then I found out that there are multiple layers of these cultural requirements.
Requirements, and we are talking about requirements?
No, not requirements. Maybe a better word to use is cultural preference.
Okay, preference.
It's not that, you can't meet requirements, then, rate hard, then out you go. It's not like that. It's not like that.
Okay, expectations.
Yeah,
yes.
expectations.
What are the expectations like?
Yeah.
Like maybe some interesting expectations that you actually experience.
Mostly with Chinese clients, I think it is the turnaround and the emphasis on physical presence. I can tell you there are some local clients that I've never ever met in person. Maybe I see on Zoom. Right. I know what they look like because I have to check their IC, right? But other than that, I never see the actual physical person.
Wow.
Chinese clients always want to meet with you face to face.
They prefer the personal touch.
Maybe it's the personal touch and they want to spend some time with you, right? They want to usually sit down at some place with food and drink and then talk about other things as well. And I know for some lawyers, it is a difficult thing to do because there are some of us who think that, time is money.
Yeah.
Right? If I cannot bill you for this time spent, then I'm not earning money.
Correct. And it's not every lawyer being comfortable to socialize.
So for us, it's a different business model, right? Because we don't see ourselves as charging for the time. Right? My client don't value me just because I sit them with there for a certain period of time. Right? It is more about the process. It is about certain work product.
Yes.
With Chinese clients, there's also the additional expectation that, I want to see who is this person and whether this is somebody that I can trust or work with. And I know that we have these horror stories of Chinese clients, come out something with like 70% alcohol, that kind of thing, right?
茅台.
茅台白酒什么江小白 all these kind of things.
Okay.
But luckily for me, I haven't experienced that lah.
Okay.
I of course I've done my fair share of go to clients' restaurant, have a meal with them, that kind of thing. And talk about everything under the sun. And this is something which my other friends and colleagues have confirmed that this is their way of seeing you as a person and deciding whether or not
they want to do business with you.
They want to do business with you, whether or not they can depend on you.
Yeah, like whether or not they can trust you. Some they even went extra mile to do the 酒精测试 on you, like whether can you control your alcohol intake or not.
Maybe last time, I think now for me, luckily I haven't met some of these older generation, I would say.
Yeah, maybe
the current generation, they are okay. They don't use alcohol as a testing ground. Not so much.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe
so I think
older
for people our
generation,
age, we don't have to be afraid, after this job, like fatty liver, that kind of thing.
Okay. And also, since you're mentioning about your overseas client, and do you collaborate? So because just now we mentioned about the terms collaboration, right? What collaboration means to lawyer?
So I think for lawyers, we have several kinds of restrictions. At least for Singapore lawyers, we are not supposed to give referral fees. We are supposed to get our instructions directly from the clients. Right? Maybe you can have other lawyers instructing you, but you must confirm your instructions with the client.
Okay.
Things like that. So when it comes to collaboration, I think when lawyers work with each other, there's usually it's usually I suppose it's a very formal kind of relationship. Right? You had to make sure that I have the authority from the client, right? Then we establish what is the process, right? Do I talk through you only? Do we have to both see in the client at all times? Who is going to handle the payment, right? If you are instructing, right? If you want to collect payment, maybe you have to do it through a separate invoice.
So like for example, if me and you we collaborate, okay, so we have to talk terms out and then we have to put everything in writing.
In writing, yeah.
Okay. And then also like you mentioned, by right you cannot give the referral.
Yeah. So
right.
So I mean, there are some lawyers who, of course, they are concerned about whether they will lose the client. So they say, I want to be the instructing lawyer. That is fine. For some of us, when we know that we don't have very much input, right, I also have this practice, right? I ask the client, okay, for example, what do you need? And then they say, I want to, for example, redeem my home loan. But because I don't do convincing, and I don't really see the value of having to supervise somebody else who knows what they're doing, and I don't know what they're doing, I might as well say, okay, you know what, I will find you the specialist, right? And then I will just introduce both of you. Right? If you want me to stay in a group chat, I will, but otherwise you can deal directly with them. I don't charge you anything.
Yeah, actually to me, I prefer this kind of relationship also. Like when I mean, in my mind, my definition of collaboration, right? Like, I don't need to actually earn the referral fees from you. Like, I just need someone like trustworthy partner whereby I can introduce to. Does this consider collaboration or like just introducing?
Oh, so the word collaboration means a lot of different things. If you, strictly speaking, there's no legal definition for collaboration, right? But we have many legal definitions for other different kinds of models. So if you want to introduce, then that's fine. But I think for us, especially for those of us who are not looking to earn referral fees or introducer fees, right? The key thing is, again, do I know this person? Can they do a good job? You know, or will they let me down and make me lose face in front of my client?
Yes, the trust is very important.
That's very important. And I think for most of us who are entrepreneurs who go out to network, we will meet people, we will join organizations that promote this kind of referral networking.
Yes.
Right. And but even though everybody belongs to the same organization or follows the same protocol, you still have to do a due diligence.
Yes.
Right. You still have to go and talk to that person and find out. Because if you just say, okay, I pull this name out from, for example, a group chat, it's still a bit of a risk.
Yes. Yes.
It's still a bit of risk, and it's not your client just paying their money and their time. It's you paying your reputation.
Yes. Absolutely agree. Yes. Yeah, I just been through that, and I learned that the team that we actually choose to work together with is extremely important, and the quality of the services being delivered is the utmost important.
Yeah.
And we are putting our reputation at risk, actually.
Yeah. So if you feel that you are going to put your reputation at risk, then I think even if you don't have a commercial relationship, you still want to establish with the other person, okay, this is how we are going to do things. Right? Draw some boundaries.
Yeah.
Right? Agree on the flow of events and who does what at each step.
And sign it.
If you want to, of course, if it's a once-off, you may not need to sign, but you want to do something in the long term, you want to repeat that process, then it's a good idea to have that written agreement.
Thank you. Thank you for shed the lights, you know. Okay. Okay, now we come to another segment, interesting segment. Okay, since we finally got a lawyer here, I have prepared 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 questions, okay, to ask Boon Gan. Is this a myth or fact? Okay. First one. Litigation is always the best way to resolve disputes. Is this a myth or fact?
For me, it's definitely a myth. Of course, in Singapore, when it comes to government organizations, we are relatively efficient.
Okay.
But a lot of people still don't expect that, you know, if I go to court, I want to go to trial, I want to see the judge. That's going to take you at least a year.
At least
a year. And you're going to spend, I don't know, 5 or 6 digits depending on the kind of case.
Depending on the case size also?
Yeah, depending on... So also for us, it's not about the size of the claim, right? It's about what kinds of issues there are. Right? Like what are the things that we need to prove? What are the things that the other side wants to prove? What are the things that, who are the witnesses we need? Various kinds of considerations.
The complexity of the case.
And of course, if some lawyers are very garang and they say, you know, I'm going to throw everything and the kitchen sink at the other lawyer, then it just increases your trial days, because then the judge say, okay, you know you prove this part, now you got to prove this other part. Right? And then you spend time arguing about more things.
Okay.
So what we find is that besides the monetary cost, a lot of people, they are not prepared for how long it will take. Right? So there's this common misconception that, you know, I start a suit, I will get judgment in 3 or 6 months.
Okay.
Which is almost never, unless the other side doesn't show up. Right? Which is very rare. Yeah.
Okay.
So in terms of time efficiency, maybe not the most time efficient.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. So to Boon Gan is a myth. Okay. Second question. Legal structures don't impact financial outcomes. Is this a myth or fact?
Your legal structures definitely, I think, impact your financial outcomes. Most accountants will tell you, you know, at some point you should incorporate because you then can leverage on your corporate income tax instead of personal tax. I'm not a maths person, so I can't tell you where that point is. But there's definitely a
This is
clear
a
point like this.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
So this is a myth.
Yeah.
Bilingual lawyers are only necessary for translating documents. Sorry, this question written by my PA.
No, that's a good question. Some people ask me, hey, since you're bilingual, can you translate the document for me? And I tell them that I can do it, but I'm not the most efficient person. Like most clients, when they say I want the contract in Chinese, I tell them that, okay, here's a quote from a translator that I work with. Right? And all I will do is just check their work.
Have you tried translate it through AI, like via AI? Like
well, there's Google Translate, which is not AI, but we all know Google Translate is a bit off sometimes.
yeah.
I don't use AI very much for this kind of translation work because I think sometimes there are bits of the context which the AI will not know, right? Unless you prompt it very well.
True.
So for example, I had to sue this company, not a company, a former company director. Everything was done in WeChat. And you know, in WeChat, the users, they're not identified by mobile number. They can have whatever name they want.
Yep.
And everybody had very strange names. So I had to explain to the translator some of the nuances of this name. So for example, let's say this company is called, let's say the company is called Water Cup, for example. And one of these guys, inside his name, had the words 水杯. So then the translator is glass, right? Because 一杯水嘛, 水杯.
Yeah.
Then I said, okay, actually that, I think you want to consider this other translation because this is the company name and they probably translated in Chinese that way.
Yeah.
Whereas the AI, I think if you don't prompt it, it may not know.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
So for me, I will go to a translator because they do a much more efficient job than me.
So the answer is the bilingual lawyers
Can, but not recommended.
Yeah, it's not efficient like you say. Okay,
Yeah.
you're not paid to do the translation work.
Can pay, but not worth your pay, I think.
Okay, fourth question. Litigation in Singapore is highly efficient, so I can leave it to the judge to rule in my favor.
Okay.
For fact.
The analogy I like to use is this. If you watch soccer, you will always see that the audience always say, referee kayu lah, how come the referee cannot see this, referee cannot see that? So obvious, offside, penalty, whatever. But because I've been through a referee course, I can tell you, as a referee, you have to look at everybody at the same time. But you can only see maybe, 100 and something degrees.
Yeah.
You don't know what's going to happen behind you.
Yes.
You don't know what's happening to your side. And I think for the judge is even worse because they are like a referee who has come into the match after it has started. And they have no idea what is going on without the lawyers telling them, without giving them information and documents.
Yes.
So it's very easy for some judges to see some of the documents and come to some preliminary conclusions. They say, I think maybe it's like that, but I will see what they say and maybe I will change my mind. So you take a risk that the judge will see things very differently in a way that no other judge has seen before. It has happened to me. That I made a claim based on many previous cases which succeeded.
Okay.
And then the judge analyzed it in a completely different way, which we never saw in textbook, never seen in previous cases. I asked all my friends and seniors, has this ever happened to you? They said no.
I see.
So the judge is okay. People also like to ask, what is my chance of winning?
The judge is also human, to be fair.
Judge is human.
Yeah, judge is human as well.
There's this in school we learn about different legal theories, and there's this school of thought called the realist theory. They say judges are human and they suffer the same problems as humans do.
Yeah.
And one study showed that in certain criminal courts, your sentence depends on whether you see the judge before or after lunchtime.
Wow.
If you see the judge before lunchtime, too bad for you. Your sentence goes up because the judge is hungry.
Hungry. Okay. So I would say that's a myth. Okay. Thank you for the interesting answer. Okay, fifth question. Arbitration is a good alternative to litigation, so I should have arbitration as my default method of dispute resolution. Is this a myth or fact?
this is the standard lawyer answer, it depends. Because arbitration is basically, you can think of it as having your own private judge. Because both sides agree, where's the judge going to come from, what rules they are going to use, and what are the issues the judge will have to decide. One thing good about arbitration is that everything in there is confidential.
It's not open court.
It's not open court, right? You won't have people lining up waiting to see what the arbitrator has to say. In fact, most people should not even know there's arbitration going on.
Okay.
Right? But it is very expensive because you pay the arbitrator. You usually pay the arbitration institution.
Okay.
And sometimes the arbitration procedures are a bit different. Some of them, they compress the usual court procedures into a shorter time. So imagine your lawyer has to do the same amount of work in a shorter time.
Yes.
So they have to charge you more.
Okay.
So all the costs will add up. And for many local clients, because the Singapore government, they promote arbitration a lot.
Yeah.
So people know about this word, but they don't really know what is the process. And after they experience it, they usually tell us, let's not do it again.
Okay, so because the main problem is that the cost is
very high.
It's very high, but then what clients will get should expect is actually the efficiency, right? Like the turnaround time.
Yes, it's efficient, but I think for most clients, they don't appreciate the trade-off. They're not willing to pay that much more for this much more efficiency.
How much more are you looking at, like regarding the efficiency?
Okay, so yesterday I had a client from Malaysia asked me for a quote. Then I looked at the agreement, I saw it said arbitration. So I just went to check the calculator by the institute because they say you can, they give you a calculator, you tell them what the claim amount is, they give you an estimate of the fees.
Okay.
So for that kind of claim, we would have usually gone to a high court. Maybe the court fees would be, I suppose, in the low tens of thousands.
Okay, Sing dollar.
Sing dollar. But the institution calculator showed the range of something like 50 to 70K.
For the arbitration?
Yes. And that's just, that is not even your own lawyer's fees yet.
Oh my God. It's
so
like
the
6 to
price is very
7
high.
times higher.
It's much higher. And some institutions, they will charge you based on the size of the claim. And if the other side is a counter claim, they also charge you based on the size of the counter claim.
Wow, jialat.
So 各方都劳一笔。
大家都要 have a piece of
the
case.
And I actually had a case many years ago where, because the other side launched a counter claim, the arbitration institution said, can you please pay us extra fees? Both sides look at the bill and they say, let's settle lah.
Okay. So maybe this is a good thing. Like at least both parties finally agree. Let's settle lah. Okay, let's not continue anymore.
Yeah. So for us it was okay lah. I don't mind. Yeah.
Okay.
So it really depends. I tell the clients that unless you really want to keep this top secret, you may want to think twice about the fees lor.
Okay. Thank you for the honesty. I love this. Okay. Okay. The next question. Mediation and negotiation is almost the same thing, so I might as well settle privately with the other side. Is this a myth or fact?
The way you behave is quite similar. Because at least for those of us who are trained in mediation and on negotiation, the thinking process is very similar.
Okay.
Right.
Like the 出发点吗? The 出发点 of the lawyer.
So for us, when we go to court, we talk about the law, we talk about the facts, how you apply the law to the facts. But when we go and mediate or negotiate, we are usually not so interested about the law. It's just in the background to say, if we don't succeed today, these are the things we have to deal with.
I see.
But when you go in there, you are trying to, discover or confirm what the other side really wants. And trying to find whether or not there's something in common with what your client wants.
Yes.
And then you can find solutions. The difference between mediation and negotiation is that you've got a neutral third party called a mediator.
I see.
And this neutral third party is very useful for us because if the relationship is very bad, right, I cannot expect to convince the other side because they know that I am the lawyer of their opponent. And same thing for the other side lawyer, they cannot expect to convince my client.
Yeah.
Because my client knows that they're acting for the opponent.
Yes.
So if you put everybody in the same room, the chances of settlement are not as high as when you have a mediator to help lead the discussion, to talk to both sides privately, trying to find solutions.
So mediation, like there's only one mediator?
There can be two sometimes, but but usually one is enough.
Okay.
And the important thing about a mediator is that they must have the experience, they must have the legal background, so that they can tell you, in this industry, how we usually do things.
Okay.
If you don't succeed today, what is your legal consequence? What is your risk of going to trial?
Okay.
And very importantly, this is a reality check. Because there are some people who go to mediation, right? Either because of their own expectation or because of their lawyer's advice, they have some ideas about, their chances of success. They'll think, I'm going today with a strong position.
Yes.
If the other side don't want to back down, we go back to court. And then if you have a mediator who's a senior judge and say, wait, stop. Have you thought about this, and then you can see them, how? So that's the importance of the mediator lah.
But then what about the costing and the efficiency of mediation as compared to arbitration as well as litigation?
Time efficiency much faster, because usually when you apply
arbitration.
When you apply, you usually get the first mediation session within 2 or 3 months. Right. Of course, depends on both sides' available dates lah.
Yep.
The fees are usually, I would say, less than 20,000.
Oh, okay.
And that's for a whole day lah. If you go different places, there are different rates, but I would say the general ballpark is like less than 20,000.
Then isn't it better for client to first go to mediation first, and then they will decide subsequently if they want to go litigation, or if they can settle privately, they settle privately?
So if they can settle privately, that's good. But if they come to us, then usually it's an indication that they cannot settle privately lah. Whether or not they do it before going to court, for us, we look at the relationship. We look at what are the things they've discussed. Right. If we see that the relationship is broken down and they have very far apart positions. So recently I had this case. My client is the business development consultant.
Okay.
Did some work, but the client don't want to pay them. And we say that, we did some of the work, even though you couldn't close the deal, we should be paid lah.
Yeah.
The problem was that at the start, the other side didn't have lawyers. So they gave a low offer, which I told the client, I think we can do better than that, so we don't accept offer. So we always, let's say we always maintain that we should get paid this much. Their offer was low. So we can see there's a big gap. And then after their lawyers came on board, the offer became even worse. So I said, there's no chance we can settle privately.
Yeah.
So we had to go to a mediator who will help us close the gap.
I see.
So right now we are still in the process of closing the gap.
Okay, interesting. Okay, the next one. A written contract is just a formality which I can do at any time.
This is a very dangerous myth.
Okay, define the dangerous.
Because especially when you put in money into a company, thinking that, I will be part of the business, this is my stake in the company, without signing the agreement first, if the discussion breaks down, your money is stuck inside.
Okay.
So now I'm also working on a matter where the client has done exactly this. They put in the money before they come to me for the agreement. Right? Of course, they don't say this to me, but what I suspect is that they had the mindset that it's a formality that, because, we are a modern company, we should do these proper corporate things and we should have a shareholders agreement. And because I am the person in charge of finance and other legal stuff, I'm the one who organizes those things, so I go and talk to Boon Gan.
But in fact, they
already started.
Yeah, the leg is already in there.
The leg is already in there. And then now they want to pour the leg, you don't know whether your leg will come out.
Can come out or not?
You don't know whether it can come out or not, or it come out with one chunk missing.
Yeah, okay.
Right now it looks like it might come out with one chunk missing.
Okay. So it's very dangerous. Like written contract, I have to do first before you make any action.
That's why I recommend, because in the process of negotiating a contract, you exchange drafts and then you discuss and then you find out that actually there's some things we cannot resolve, or there are some things that we cannot agree. Then that is your chance to pull out.
Oh, okay.
Right.
To relate back to my case, it's like client has to read the proposal, everything, then pay the payment. Like not like there's nothing like, I pay the payment first, then I sign later. No, cannot. I
guess for your industry it's a bit different, right? Because you have all these rules like the 14-day
we have free period.
Yeah.
But also we have to go through all the proposal, client need to understand, then they sign, then only you can make payment. You can't say I pay to a company first and then I sign. No,
So
such thing.
I know some people think like, wow, it's a lot of things to do just to get somebody to pay premium. But you imagine the alternative. Someone pays first, then later they are not happy with the policy, and then they say, I want my premium back.
Yeah.
And then your HQ will kacau you.
It's like hurting both sides, wasting my time and your time.
Yeah.
Okay. Good illustration. Okay, another one. I can just use a template agreement because lawyers use templates too. Okay.
I can tell you that there's nothing wrong with using a template, but it's how you use it. I've had clients come to me and they say, oh, this is my previous template, you help me have a look. And these are people who are our age, can speak and write English perfectly normal one. But they overlook certain things which for us are very obvious. So, for example, I have this client based in the US, gave me, I think it was their employment agreement. Scroll. I looked at it, I realized that they took a template it was most likely a template, and I don't know where they got it from, but it said the governing law was India. So this is not even a template problem, it's the user problem, because the user didn't even look through the template.
Correct.
And then see whether everything
make changes
sense.
Accordingly.
Yes. I mean, there are some people who try to make changes and the changes to us don't reflect their intention, but that's a secondary thing. Some of them don't even make the changes.
Yeah.
And then we get problems like that. So it's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
You have to read the document before you use it.
Yeah. And although yes, templates are widely used, but then lawyer, you're trained to, how to change the terms accordingly, right?
Yeah, I mean, I as part of my efficient process, I do have my own templates. But when a client asks for it, I don't just like copy paste now. Here's the template. Please pay my fees. It's not like that.
Yeah.
Right? Because the template is like a structure. The client has to tell me enough things so I can put all the muscles, the nerves, the skin.
Yeah, like you're the designer. What you have the structure, but then how you want to design is based on the client's needs and wants, right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. Another interesting one. Okay. I can make written agreements over WhatsApp, WeChat, or Telegram, etc. And they will be just as good as a formal contract. Me for fact.
In theory, possible.
Possible?
Possible. Because at least for Singapore courts, they say, as long as in writing and you fulfill certain criteria, you have an agreement.
Like I write today, in a WhatsApp, okay, so my company, we are agreed to appoint you as our so and so, what's your responsibility and what's
this is
your
your scope of work, this is your pay.
Do you agree? And then the other party reply me, yes, I agree.
That is possible.
Sign contract, okay, sign.
that is possible. But the main problem is that most people, when they use WhatsApp and WeChat, they don't talk like that.
Okay, yes.
Right. And when you look at the track record, you look at the transcript, sometimes it just looks like two uncles at the kopitiam talking about everything under the sun. And then in between, you have something then they will go back and say, okay, about this topic,
irrelevant
1 or 2 lines.
thing.
Yeah, then it'll be full of a lot of other things. And then the problem is trying to put together a coherent story, right, for the judge. And the example I like to use is if you go to a kindergarten and you start telling the children about a princess who has an evil stepmother, gets sent into the woods, finds a cottage with 7 beds, then they'll know, right, oh, this is the story of Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. But if you halfway through say, then the big bad wolf appear, they'll be like, huh? What story is this?
Yeah. Okay.
So it's very confusing if you don't have everything lined up nicely. And these methods of communication, I think, allow people to say anything in any way they want.
It's like lack of the formality.
Yeah, lack of formality and it's not well organized. So because it's not well organized, then our job becomes even more difficult.
Okay, so the answer to this is that yes, you can write agreements over WhatsApp, WeChat, Telegram, but have to be properly written.
Yeah, and I discourage Telegram because what I found out is that for Telegram, the other user can delete your entire chat and you only have, I think, something like 10 seconds to stop the deletion.
Oh, yes. If let's say they put it a private mode, you can make it disappear whatsoever.
Yeah. How I discovered this was, sometimes on Telegram, people add you to all these investment chat groups.
Yeah, I got a lot.
Right.
Tons of it.
And then I confronted the person leading a group chat. I said, how do you get my number? Right? Because, there's this thing called the do not call registry and all these things.
Yeah.
Right? He didn't give me a satisfactory answer. So I think maybe that day I was not in a good mood, so I just kept pursuing him. Right? And then I think I may have even said that if I will make a complaint to PEPC or whatever. I can't remember exactly what I said, but
Don't mess with lawyer.
I didn't say I was a lawyer, but it got to a point where he started feeling embarrassed and started scolding me back. And then at some point I realized that he deleted the entire chat. So I couldn't even prove that he knew that he was not supposed to do what he did.
Yeah, you can delete it. You can delete for myself and other people.
Yeah. So don't use Telegram.
Don't use Telegram. Yes, you want to do written argument using WhatsApp, WeChat is good, but not Telegram.
Yeah, not recommended.
Okay, the last two questions. Small businesses don't need legal counsel as much as large corporations. Myth or fact?
For me, it's a question of the needs, right? What are your needs on a legal basis, or on a daily basis? Because for large corporations, maybe because you have a lot of subsidiaries, you have a lot of customers, you have a lot of suppliers, you have a lot of activity, right? So your exposure increases. If, for example, you're like a car dealership with many branches, right? You have to deal with a lot of different customers, you have to deal with a lot of different employees, then maybe you need somebody to manage all these things for you.
Yes.
But if, for example, let's say you just run this studio and you rent it to people like you and me, right? You don't expect that much problem.
Yes.
Because you just have to set out what is the expectation of a customer, right? You make your booking, you pay your fee.
Correct.
You get to use the room. After this, you get edited version, whatever. Right? It's not that much exposure.
Correct. Not that much of risk.
Yeah, not that much of risk. So you don't need somebody always on standby. And that's why when people ask me, do you do retainer? I ask them, what do you want the retainer for? Right? Because if you just want somebody on standby, you're paying a lot of money, which is not well spent.
Yeah.
Unless you have certain repeated activities, right? Like, for example, you keep encountering the same kind of contracts which you need to get reviewed, right? Or you you have to sign a lot of the same things which from different companies which you just want to get clearance. So that kind of thing, that to me that makes more sense, rather than I just have a lawyer on standby. When I need, I just call him or her. Right? Any document I just forward to them, and then they just reply to me in 2 or 3 days. So me, that's not necessary.
Yeah, because we are talking about the small businesses.
Yeah.
And last question, once a contract is signed, it can't be modified.
You can modify it, but for us, I think it's very standard for lawyers to say that for the contract to be modified later or to be amended later, there are certain procedures to follow. Right? Both parties must put it in writing, must sign again.
Yes.
Right? Or, you need one side to agree, or things like that. So it's possible, and it happens a lot. And you will see some contracts, they have the original contract, then they have Annex 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can see the old version change history.
Correct. So with this said, right, like it's okay, like don't need to be afraid of, once I sign this agreement, it can't be modified. It can be modified with the consent of the other party.
Yeah.
So it can be done. So
it can be done.
Because sometimes I do understand that people would think that, once I sign, then maybe cannot modify, or very hard to modify, such a hassle. Then people just keep delaying doing up the...
So I think the concern is that, usually people, once they sign a contract, they just want to carry on. And they don't want to have to keep making changes. So you think about it from the other side's point of view, they are also interested in having some certainty.
Yes.
They don't want to say, tomorrow this guy want to change the SOP again.
Yeah.
Then we have to write everything down again.
Agree.
Yeah. So it can be done. It can be done. But it's more about the commercial considerations.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Boon Gan. Okay, wow, a lot to take in. Okay.
You had a lot of questions too.
Yeah. And I already cut down a few, I know it's time constraint. And also, just to let the audience know, me and Boon Gan, we actually agreed that, we will be doing the next episode, which is about, because since Boon Gan is also dealing with a lot of business owner, right? And we would do the next session. It's about the buy-sell agreement and key person planning. Because during our discussion last time, we actually did talk about it. And I was like, hey, why don't we sit down? And then me as a financial consultant and him as a lawyer, like we sit down with its experience and with my skill set, like why don't we discuss something like interesting? And I would say that it would definitely be beneficial to even you're a business owner or even you're a financial consultant. Right. Okay. And let me do a summary and recap for today's episode. Okay, so earlier on, we actually talked about, definitely about Boon Gan experiences and, what inspired him to do what he's doing at the moment, currently. And then we also discussed about the legal basic for financial consultant. Okay, we discussed about, financial consultant, those who wants to penetrate into the business SME, business owner space, right? It's extremely important that they understand the business model of the client first, okay, and ask the right questions. And Boon Gan here actually shared with us the business model canvas, okay? And then we had several interesting case study. And also, I actually love the myth and fact session. Yeah, it's like a lot of interesting, like a mind-blowing facts that came to me and case study as well. Yeah, thank you so much, Boon Gan, for joining us today. It's really, really incredibly insightful.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. I mean, thank you so much for doing this together with me, like value-adding people, audience at large.
Yeah, I hope they find it useful too.
Definitely will be. I mean, even me, graduated from law school, right? I also feel like, wow, okay, mind-blowing, because studying is different from, studying is one thing, but then whether we are putting it into practice is another thing, right? Experience. It's not in the textbook. Thank you so much. And I'm really, really looking forward to the next episode with you.
Same here.
Yeah. Till next time. Bye. Thank you for being part of this incredible dialogue. We hope this episode has inspired you to embrace heart-to-heart dialogue in your own life. If you love to share your stories with us, DM us, comment below, or use the hashtag HTHD stories. Your voice matters, and we can't wait to listen and learn from you. If you enjoyed today's conversation, don't forget to subscribe and share this episode with your friends. Remember, every genuine conversation has the power to make a difference. Let's make an impact together. Till next time.